Namaste viewers, welcome to today's live Q&A session on Hinduism. My name is Manish and I have with me Vijay Hirani and Sita Ben as today's Hinduism expert. Today's special topic is how do Hindus pray? A nice and simple topic. And as usual, we'll share the video of Jay talking about it, and then we'll discuss the main topic. And then we'll take the viewers' Q&A on the topic and any other questions that viewers have. So straight away, we'll get started on today's video. So bear with me as I start the video.
We are a pluralistic tradition, very open-minded. So different people, different groups, different individuals will pray in a very personalized manner. We don't say this is the only prayer you must use. There are certain prayers we give greater emphasis, but there is no imposition that this is the only prayer, hang on to it. We don't do that. So maybe you discover your own way of praying, your own way of linking up with spirituality in a kind of personalized manner. So we allow for it. There's no fixed rule. But the kind of standard format that we teach or set up that is kind of followed by the Hindus is basically, if you want to pray, you cannot not pray to a principle. How do you pray to Brahman and Atman? So you pray to a personality. But the personality you choose depends on you and your own background, your own liking. So you allow that. This is called pluralism. So I like God as mother. So you say, okay, focus on the mother goddess. Which mother goddess? Oh, I like Saraswati. I want to be clever. Good, Saraswati. Focus on it. So you start, learning the hymns to the praise of Saraswati. Put the image of Saraswati in front of your eyes. Show your respect. How do you show respect? You bow down when you see the image. You light a lamp. So you say, okay, I want to go from ignorance to enlightenment. You offer flowers, sign of offering my heart. You offer some food and to show your respect and say your gratitude. You tinkle bell to say, mommy, wake up. Or say that, mommy, let me wake up. So you tinkle bell and you light an incense stick. And all these things, you engage your five senses towards a personality-oriented spiritual aspiration. And again, I'm just talking about Saraswati, but you can focus on any of the deities that Hinduism likes and say, okay, I'm going to show my respect to this deity by worshipping, offering flowers and fruit and incense stick and light and so on, and bowing down to her and singing her hymns. This is how you pray. But different Hindus will pray in different ways. Some people will say, I don't like personality Hinduism, I like principle-oriented Hinduism. Then they say, just focus your attention on who you truly are. It's not easy. It is easier to focus on external personality than on your true nature. But this is one way you can pray. Invoke the spirit which is within you. So again, personality-oriented way of praying and principle-oriented way of praying. But a principle-oriented way of praying is going to be difficult. How do you get a handle on yourself? And this is the whole idea of Advaita Vedanta. But this is how different Hindus will pray in using different modes.
Free e-learning course in Hinduism. To register, please visit www.hindu-academy.com.
Talks on Hinduism. Sponsored by People Care.
So there you have it, Jay talking about how Hindus pray, and as Jay mentioned, different Hindus pray differently. And brought up in a Hindu household with devout mom and dad, I've seen them pray, and it's quite interesting. My dad used to be quite loud, and my earliest memory was singing arti in front of in our small temple in the house, and everyone was standing there singing arti, and that was wonderful. And it's a beautiful way, I think, that families come together as well in artis or group prayers like that. But generally, people would pray on their own. And may have on special occasion artis where everyone is there. So what's your take on this topic, Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, so I think Manish Bhai, the thing is that when it comes to praying, I think there's as Hinduism is a pluralistic religion, there's so many ways to pray. I mean, when I was growing up as well, we did aarti, we did lamps, divas. Also, we did some singing hymns in front of the local, the home temple that we had. We did all kinds of activities. But having said that, when I went to other people's houses, they would do the ceremony a little bit differently and maybe say different hymns, but that's all okay because that's the beauty about Hinduism. You can approach God in whatever way suits you best, depending on your tradition, the geographical area you live in, the kind of attitude you have. All this stuff kind of decides what kind of the way in which you pray. So yes, I think there's a lot of freedom in how to pray in Hinduism. Sita.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful way that we can connect with spirituality on a regular basis. And as we've said many times, life can just rush by so fast without us even realizing. So it's wonderful to have a regular pause in our everyday routine to say, you know what, I want to take this moment to think of something higher. And Hinduism is very flexible. It doesn't say you need to carry out any kind of elaborate rituals. I mean, even Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, even if you offer a flower or a fruit or a leaf, and as long as it's done with devotion, I will accept it. So it doesn't need to be anything elaborate. It doesn't have to be a complicated ceremony by any means. You can make it complicated if that's what you desire, but you don't have to. And that's the wonderful thing about Hinduism. I guess the negative thing is that sometimes we take this flexibility a bit to the extreme, to the point where it's very easy for individuals to forget to carry out these kind of daily rituals. So we have to try and sort of temper it and do what suits our sort of, our routine, our personality, what suits us the best. Because perhaps even, the idea of worshipping an external deity doesn't appeal to you. Maybe for you, worship is going and serving your local community and doing good work in the local community. Maybe that's your worship, serving the living God. So there are lots and lots of different ways that we can carry out a daily worship or carry out any kind of service to humanity. Is all allowed within Hinduism.
Thank you, Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai. So Sita Ben, looking at my household and how my mom and dad pray, they start off maybe with Ganesh and then they will go on to Mother Goddess, and then, they're chanting different mantras and saying different prayers. So all these different gods and goddesses come into picture, and maybe they like one of the god or goddesses, and then they will focus a bit more on it, but they will try to, have all, prayers or a mantra for every single main god or goddesses. And in this way, it's a wonderful prayer, and this is done daily. But the question arises that, are you not then scattered and not focusing on one particular daily where you can make much more progress if you just focus on one deity rather than try to have a kind of a ritual where you're trying to please all the gods and end up not progressing much on any front? What do you say to that, Sita Ben?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to so many Hindu homes, you'll often find that, it's not just one deity that they're all sort of huddled together. All this whole collection of deities are all huddled together. And then even if you go to a mandir, many a time, you suppose even it's a Shiva temple or a Krishna temple, you'll find there won't just be Krishna there. There'll be all sorts of gods and goddesses surrounding the central image of Krishna. So they're all always there. And in a way, what it shows is that in the Hindu mind, we just don't see any difference between all of these different deities because we understand that they are all the expression of the same divinity. So pluralism is so integral and so inherent in the way that we think, to the point where, it's totally fine within a family if the granny loves Mother Goddess and if the child loves Hanuman. There's no infighting. There's no you're better than me, I'm better than you. There's no fighting at all. This is all just spirituality. This is how it all flows. So I think it's a wonderful expression of pluralism. When you go to any Hindu home, there's usually a whole collection there. When you go to a mandir, there's also a whole collection there. But you are completely right. There is the danger then that you don't focus on any particular one deity. So I think what Hinduism recommends is that you pick one and you stick with that, because then you focus all your sort of meditations, all your prayers on that one deity, and you kind of build a relationship, a very personal relationship with that deity. And it could be in the form of seeing God as your father or mother or friend, or even a child. You can think of God as a child in Hinduism. So it usually recommends that we focus on one. Perhaps they're all sitting there, but I don't think any of the other gods will mind if you focus all your energy on one of those deities. They're all the same expression of the same divinity at the end of the day. Vijay?
I think, Manish, you're right, that in the sense that from the outside, it looks really confusing, because I think especially people of the Abrahamic faith, they wonder what is happening here. I mean, all these gods, and it's very confusing for them. But I think for us, even though we have many gods, generally people do prefer to pray to one particular deity. And maybe the exception here and there, like pray to Ganesh for, good luck, or if you go weddings, you pray to Ganesh. But generally people do have kind of one deity. And of course, there are others from the other tradition who will not have any deity at all. I mean, they will be praying as a God as a prince. So I think it depends. I mean, for example, for my own self, although I pray to one particular deity, but quite often when I'm learning something, I'll quickly say a verse on Saraswati. I think that's okay too. I mean, Hindus are quite comfortable in doing that. So it can be very unusual from the outside, yes, but it's quite normal in Hinduism to do that. As Sita mentioned, even within the house, people can pray different deities, and that's absolutely fine. So I think that's the beauty about Hinduism. It's not a weakness. I think it's a strength. It may look a little bit confusing, but I think it's fine. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I think it should be okay. So, yeah, Manish bhai.
Okay. Another question that arises is when you have a family deity or you belong to a particular tradition, say you're a Vaishnava, you are more focused on Krishna or Ram, and many families, they would have mother goddess or a Kul Devi that they relate to. So should they not be focusing on this particular deity more than anyone else? How does that play? Or if someone likes to, worship a different deity, how does that, relate to the other family members? Sita?
Yes, so I mean, sometimes there's this sort of attachment to a particular deity within a family, and that's okay. It's a way of passing on a generational tradition, which is wonderful. But then Hinduism wouldn't condemn you or say, "Oh, you're terrible," if, for example, you have an attachment or an affinity to another deity. That's okay as well in Hinduism. And perhaps your family will be like, "Why aren't you focusing on our traditional family deity?" But from the perspective of Hinduism, absolutely nothing wrong, because as we said, they are all the expression of the same divinity. And I guess one of those things is that perhaps you're born into a certain family, but perhaps you want to find your own path. Perhaps you don't even want to think of God with form at all, as Vijay said. Perhaps the idea of a principle-oriented Hinduism is more appealing to you. And it doesn't mean that we should restrict your spiritual growth by stopping you. That's completely contradictory. It's against what Hinduism is all about. So we should have that freedom and that flexibility to choose the path that suits us, because all of us are on a very individual, very personal spiritual journey. And to try and restrict the flow of that individual and their spiritual growth would be wrong. So if your child or whatever says, "You know what, this doesn't appeal to me, I prefer this particular way," they shouldn't be stopped. They should be encouraged and supported on their spiritual growth and their spiritual journey. And that's what pluralism is all about. Vijay?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the thing is that I know of many families who have Kur Devis, but they've been in their family for so many generations that a lot of the modern youth are not really into that idea of, the ancestral deity. Once a year visit the temple or the shrine of the traditional, deity, but that doesn't mean that that's their first preference. But they will show respect because of ancestral reasons or tradition. But they might like another deity, and that's absolutely fine too. But so I think it depends. Yeah, so it depends on how you see it. As long as you don't vilify it or say, "Look, I know it's my family as a tradition, I should respect it." But you know what? I like this deity. I think that's the way to go. Because Hinduism, nobody really follows the gods, all the deities. So I guess in that sense, it's similar. Yeah.
Thank you, Vijay Bhai, Sitaben. So one thing that's happening in modern times is this. Although the older generation did this very religiously and they were more into it, in modern day, being modern, we tend to do this very less often. And sometimes in being more liberal and open, what's happening is you suddenly reduce it to a level where you are hardly doing any prayers, and the children don't get into it as well because the family is not doing it, their parents are not doing it. And suddenly what you find is there is a disconnect now that you do not relate to the Hinduism anymore. It's happening like that families are completely moving away from the traditional Hinduism, and it's generally, maybe they're spiritual. I'm not saying they don't believe in God, but it's becoming much more different in a way, and the religion only comes into play at certain festivals. What do you say about this, Sitaben? I think this is happening very much nowadays.
Yeah, it reminds me of what my dad suggested to us when we were children, and he set up our Sunday classes for little children. What he said is that, yes, you're busy in your school and you're tired and you come home and you have your homework. And he says, what you do, the simplest ritual that you can do, which literally doesn't even take 5 seconds to do, is just before you go to sleep, just say the name of God 3 times and go to sleep. At least that's some kind of handle you have on spirituality, some kind of pause that you're taking in your everyday routine. That's what he suggested to us when we were children, which isn't very elaborate or long. It doesn't take very long, but it's just a case of having that ritual as part of our everyday life. And all of us children, we've all grown up now. And actually what many of, the kids who I was in the class with, what they've said a lot of the time is that actually having that handle on some kind of spiritual practice, even though it was incredibly basic, incredibly simple, has actually held my hand through, the challenges of life. As you grow up and you become an adult, you're faced with all sorts of pressures, all sorts of responsibilities. But having that sort of spiritual anchor sort of told to us right from our childhood is actually like some kind of stability to give us strength within ourselves to say, I can tackle all of these life challenges, because without having that kind of spiritual anchor, we can get sort of thrown about by the waves of life. We're all kind of all over the place. It's very, very easy for us to just get thrown here, thrown there, this pressure, that pressure. And before you know it, you're an old person. So it's wonderful to have some kind of an anchor, some kind of a spiritual anchor in our life. And as we've said, it doesn't need to be anything complicated, elaborate, time-consuming. As long as you have that, and as long as we can tell this to our children, then hopefully they might find it a bit boring to start with, but it's only for a minute. So encourage them to do it for a minute, and they will find as they grow up, as they face life's challenges, it can really help them in the most sort of difficult circumstances. So I think that's a wonderful, simple lesson that Dad taught us right from when we were children. Vijay?
Yes, Sita, I fully agree with you. I think the thing is, Manish Bhai, the reason why many people don't pray or pray less or sometimes pray mechanically, there's multifaceted reasons for that. There's so many reasons why that's happening. Of course, we live in a modern world with gadgets, all kinds of distractions, as Sita mentioned. So it's very tricky, but I think we still have to make an effort, because Yeah, I mean, there's a question was Jebas asked quite often, what's the point of praying? There's so many reasons. Discipline reminds you of your spiritual divine nature. Because quite often we work so hard every day and do all kinds of activities. We forget our own divine nature, that we are special too. And the only way to know that is one of the main points or anchors is, prayer. So prayer or meditation. So I guess I agree with Sita, it starts with something small. And hopefully if they keep the discipline, maybe they can make it a bit bigger. I mean, even science has proven that the people who sit out for half an hour or 20 minutes a day and think deeply or pray or take some time out from the hectic life that they have is very beneficial, very therapeutical. So there are very many beneficial reasons. And maybe that's perhaps the angle to approach with the young today, that look, it's really beneficial for you, makes you disciplined, makes you realize your own divine nature. But this is perhaps a new way to look at how we can encourage children to start praying, or at least give some time out to self-reflect. But again, there's a lot of challenges to make that happen, obviously.
Thank you, Vijay. Yes, I agree with you there. We take next question is from Abhinav Sharma. He's saying, how do we pray if we are in Saivism? Over to you, Vijay. How do Saivas pray?
Okay, Shaivism is very, very broad and very vast in its nature, because starting all the way from North India, where it's Kashmiri Shaivism, all the way to South India, Shiva you can pray in a multitude of ways. Shiva, in essence, is very special. You can pray to Shiva as, in an Advait fashion, in a Dvait fashion. So it depends really how you do pray to Shiva. But the luckily with Shiva is that Shiva is very, very happy no matter how you pray. I mean, as we reach in class, that you can give him a little bilwa leaf and just sit by a shivling and pray for a few minutes. He's happy. You can chant all night, Shivoham, Shivam. He's happy. You can go in deep meditation, like Shiva, who is the Adi Yogi. Take him as an example. Fine too, beautiful in that sense, because there are a multitude of ways you can pray to him. You'll notice that in India as well, that you have the big, huge, the 12, Bara Jyotirling temples, massive temples, all the way to little cave with a small, natural occurring shivling. All of them are Shiva. So Shiva is really unique and amazing. So I think to answer that question is very, very difficult, because there are so many ways you can pray to Shiva. I suggest you use whatever suits you best. And as I mentioned, there's so many traditional reasons, geographical reasons, all kinds of family traditions. All that will decide really how you want to pray. Also your age and aptitude, how you want to see Shiva in your own life. So there are many different ways you can pray to Shiva. Even through dance, you can pray to Shiva. So Shiva is very unique and very special in that sense. Asita?
That's one of the amazing things. I totally agree with the Shiva tradition. It's a beautiful sort of combination of Advait and Dvait. So you can say, I am Shiva, I am God. And you can also say, I want to see Shiva as being separate to myself as well. So it's got this beautiful sort of synergy. And one of the lovely things about the Shiva tradition is, it considers, male and female as being equal in the form of Ardhanarishwar. It sort of incorporates everyone of all sort of races and genders, and everything is all incorporated within the Shiva tradition. So it's a tradition which really focuses on egalitarianism, equality, and tremendous freedom. Because one of the things with Shiva, and especially if you look at the way he looks compared to the other deities of Hinduism, who are all dressed up in gold and jewelry, and they look very polished and proper, whereas Shiva, it doesn't look like that. He's not covered in jewels and gold. He doesn't look his hair isn't well combed. It's all like in a matted situation, and it's all very, very simple and very natural. What it's saying is that don't give so much attention to outer appearances and outer garments and all of that. It's more focusing on the inner journey. It's a journey of introspection, a journey of meditation. So I think that's one of the wonderful things about the Shiva tradition. And as Vijay Bhai said, there are so many ways that you can choose to worship Goddess Shiva as yourself or outside.
That's wonderful to hear. And, some of the Hindus, very popular, some of the mantras there, Sivoham, Om Namah Shivaya, you can use all that. And also Om Trambakam Yajamahe, the Mahamrutyunjay mantra. So you can use all these to enhance your prayer. Also Karpur Gauram, very wonderful prayer there as well. So much stuff out there, and you could use all these, devotional hymns and prayers to great effect and feel that connect with the divine. Many Vaishnavas would have either Ram Murti or Krishna Murti in their own home temple, and some of them would actually dress them different clothes and really try to relate them. And one of the Gujarati bhajan I heard, Taro re sangare karta rupa amaru nikhare re surya ugene ek palakma gadu dhummas vikre. When I am decorating your image, my inner beauty comes out. Would you agree with that? That it's when we linking to this divine image is actually, it is kind of unearthing the spirituality within us. What do you say to that, Siddharth?
Yeah, totally. So that's the amazing thing about Hinduism is we say that, ultimately everything is divine, everyone is divine, everyone is just a manifestation of spirit. But because it's such an abstract and very difficult concept, a very subtle concept for the human mind to understand, we need these forms, these kind of something that a mental handle in a way for us to understand the subtleties of spirituality. So that's why we have all of these hundreds and thousands of images of gods and goddesses. And it's wonderful because as human beings, we are very good at building relationships with those around us, with our family and with our friends. So why not use this skill that we have as human beings to further our spiritual progress? And the way that we can do that is by having an image of God who we love. It could be Krishna or Ram or Shiva or Mother Goddess, whoever it is. Let's use what we are good at to focus on spirituality, to further our spiritual progress. I want to think of God as my mother, as a Mother Goddess, or even as my child. I can think of God as my child. We're all good at building human relationships, so why not build a human relationship with God? And by doing that, we actually come closer and closer to God, to the point where when you were sort of at that conclusion, suppose you're lucky enough to gain vision of the God that you love. What a tremendous moment, what a beautiful moment that would be. Ultimately, the conclusion is that you can no longer see yourself as being separate to the object of your love. You see yourself as being merged with the God that you love. And through that whole journey of having God out there and me over here, through that whole sort of, we're going round in a loop, and we come and finally realize that it's the same God that is within us, that what we were looking up out there is actually what's within us ultimately. But many sort of devotees of, all these different forms of gods and goddesses, sometimes they say, you know what, suppose I am lucky enough to gain vision of the deity that I love. I don't want to just merge into it in 1 second. I want to take a moment to savor the sweetness of that moment. I don't want to just merge into that God. I want to have a moment. Let me have a moment where I can stand here and my God can stand there. And I can say, what a tremendously beautiful moment that is. And I think it's in the Bhagavatam, they talk about, you want to taste the sugar before you become the sugar itself. I want to have a moment where I have a distance from my deity that I love before I actually become that sweetness itself. So it's a beautiful way of making spiritual progress. Vijay Bhai?
There seems to be some problem with Vijay Bhai's connection there.
I see the
Shiva, are
divine
you
in
able
external, also
Yes.
internal. Sorry. Yeah. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but not see your image. Seems like.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. So I think that's what I'm saying, that yeah, when you see beauty outside, it actually reflects inner beauty as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Vijay Bhai. We look at the next question. So what we see is different, Sampradayas having different ways of praying as well, and different prayers, etc. And one thing that comes with Arya Samaj is that they moved away from all these images, and they tried to go back to the Vedic times and said actually, the original Vedas were all about the having the fire ceremony and having a fire altar in the ceremony home, and doing the fire rituals. So what's your take on this Arya Samaj way, Vijay?
Okay, so Arya Samaj it was founded by Dhyana Saraswati. Now, because what they say actually, they have a little bit of a point as well. They're saying that ultimately there's only one Shruti scripture, and that's the Vedas. There's no other Shruti scripture. While except the three main, the Prasthantraya, these the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutra. The Arya Samaj only accept the Vedas as supreme, but that's the only Shruti they see. So they won't accept teachings of the Bhagavad Gita or Puranas. They may respect it, but they won't accept it in common daily life. Now, in the Vedic scriptures, there's two main divisions. We have the Karma Kand, which is the Sahita, which is the hymns to Indra, Varun. Then you have the Brahmanas, which is the rituals. That's the Karma, and the Gnan Kand is, of course, Upanishads. Now, the Brahmanas is very, very big part of the Vedic scriptures. Because at that time, in ancient times in India, the idea of how you pray, how you rituals, are very elaborate and very strict rules. As a matter of fact, the way you make the Havan Kund, the rules you used to make it, they were all elaborate. And what they say is that, look, ultimately we all linked to nature. There's also a lot of things called order, the idea of Ratha. There's order in the universe, so everything was done orderly. And in many ways, there's a lot of beauty behind the rituals, because the idea was, how do you link yourself to the divine? How do you link yourself to the higher beings? How do you link yourself to nature? And one way to do it is with Havans, because Havans is very natural kind of activity. Because think about it, fire, wood, grains, ghee, the stuff you use, they're all natural things. In many ways, it takes you closer to nature and makes you feel one with nature, at the same time links you to the higher gods. Now, again, in ancient times, we had a lot of deities like Indra, Varun, Agni, and we didn't have images of that as such. We just saw them as divine forces, right? So Arya Samaj has an issue saying, look, there was no idea of image worship as such in the ancient Vedic scriptures. So why are we doing them now? And the Vedic scriptures are very, very detailed in how we should do rituals. So they really focus on that particular part as a kind of main way of getting to achieve moksha. As a matter of fact, they are one of the 6 main darshanas of Hindu philosophy, which is the Mimamsa darshan, where they use a lot of rituals. And that's not a bad thing, I guess. But many Hindus said, look, that's good, okay, well and good, which we all do, like in weddings, when you do samskars, we do all these kind of rituals, fine. But we should spend a lot of time looking inward as well, more time looking inward. That is not to say that Arya Samaj doesn't do, they look inward as well. But so others say, look, we should look a lot more inward and should have a lot more flexibility. And besides, Gita is a very beautiful scripture. So they're saying, look, we should use divine knowledge from wherever we get, right? So this is the kind of little differences. But nevertheless, I give Arya Samaj a lot of credit, because they did really a lot of good work in India, amazing work in so many fields. But Hinduism is a pluralistic tradition, so it's all fine. If that's how they see God, that's very good. If somebody is going a different way, that's good too. So there are very many different facets to Hinduism. Arya Samaj is but one of them, which in many ways is also a very beautiful way to do things, because you are linking yourself with the divine to the idea of rituals. Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think they've done a tremendous amount of social good in India, especially because their founder was very passionate about doing something for the greater good, which is a wonderful thing. And I think in a way, I mean, they sort of move away from the idea of thinking of God with form, which is, it's been quite an important part of Hinduism, but what it shows is the diversity of different approaches that there are there. If you want to think of God with form, that's fine. If you want to think of God without form, that's also fine as well. And as Vijay Bhai has covered it so beautifully in terms of the kinds of scriptures that they follow, the elaborate rituals that they perform. And it's wonderful that, as we have said, they use fire, and all of these aspects of nature are brought into their beliefs and their practices, because we understand that we can use nature and natural elements to help us connect with a higher reality. So I think that's a wonderful thing that the Arya Samaj brings.
Thank you, Sita and Nisit Bhai. Wonderful answers. We take the next question about the Mother Goddess. How would we pray to Mother Goddess, Sita?
Yes, I mean, so Mother Goddess, again, we have, the usual kind of puja, the worship ceremony, and the classic time that people worship the Mother Goddess is obviously, which we're coming up to, the festival of Navratri, which is a wonderful metaphor. It's a colourful, beautiful festival which takes place over a period of 9 days, 9 nights. And people fast during that time. They worship the Mother Goddess, and they come together in dance and music to celebrate and honor the Mother Goddess. But behind that, because there's obviously the beautiful story behind why it's a period of 9 days and 9 nights, which is because the Mother Goddess was fighting this demon, and it took a long time to overcome this demon. But it's actually a metaphor. It's not just a colorful good over evil story. We have hundreds and thousands of those in all sorts of cultures around the world. But what's special about this particular story is that it's a metaphor for our human condition, because we all have our own inner demons. We all have things like jealousy and anger and pride, all of these inner issues that we need to tackle. They are our inner demons. And having this festival of Navratri, but also if you love Mother Goddess, you will do this on a daily basis, is try and remember that inner strength within us to battle those inner demons. It's a challenge, it's a struggle. It took the Mother Goddess 9 days and 9 nights to battle. So it's a long ongoing journey, but Mother Goddess, the word for the Mother Goddess is Shakti, power, energy. So it's reminding us of the energy, the power within us to overcome our own sort of inner obstacles, our own inner challenges. Vijay Bhai?
Absolutely agree. The idea of praying to Mother Goddess is very, very amazing, because I mean, you always, when I think of praying to Mother Goddess, for some reason Ramakrishna always comes to my mind, where he sees Mother Goddess as the true mother of the universe. Like, how we review our own mothers, she's the mother of the universe. And then, of course, there are many other ways, like Navratri, Sita mentioned, reading the Chandi part as well. So there are many ways you can pray to Mother Goddess. And Mother Goddess is always all-giving. So, of course, if you want something, the Mother Goddess is the way to go. Manish Bhai.
That's wonderful to hear, Vijay Bhai. So, yes, Mother Goddess is always giving, and she will give away whatever you want. So how nice is that? Another question is, we have this wonderful, Vedic prayers like Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, someone mentioned in the chat. Also, Om Asatoma Sadgamaya. All these wonderful prayers that can be used, and in a way, it gives us that kind of goals in life as and pointers as to our goal is to move towards this, towards the light, towards the spirituality, towards the divine realization. Also, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, we should be treating Vasudeva Kutumbakam, and we should be treating everyone and wishing everyone happiness and joy. And may no one be subject to misery. So how important is it to incorporate this kind of Vedic mantras in the prayers, or should we just focus on particular deity we are focusing on? Siddhaven.
Yes, so I mean, these prayers are absolutely wonderful. They're so kind of universal because they're not sort of all of these kind of Shanti prayers, they're not sort of linking to any particular one deity. So they can be said by anyone of any sort of spiritual background or anything. It doesn't even need to be within Hinduism. We're saying, may everything be happy, may everything be without disease. Like, who doesn't wish for that? Even if you're the crassest atheist, you would still wish for that at least. So I think it's a wonderful thing that so many of these verses and prayers are so incredibly vast and so universal. And I actually, me and my daughter, we sing them every night before we go to sleep, some of these prayers, because they're a wonderful way to sort of end the day on a high, basically thinking high things, thinking high thoughts, that we wish well-being for everyone and everything. So what more could anyone want, whether you're spiritual, not spiritual, materialist, or whatever you are? Surely that's something that we all wish for. And as Swami Vivekananda said, our thoughts are incredibly powerful. We often underestimate the power of thought. They like kind of go out into the world, the thoughts that we emanate, they go out into the world. And we might think, oh, it makes no difference whether I say this prayer or not. But you don't know. I mean, it's like kind of throwing out good vibrations into the world. If we can do that, and even if it's got a limited benefit, I think it's a wonderful thing to do, because every little helps eventually. Vijay?
No, I absolutely agree, Sita. I think these prayers are as universal. So anybody can say them. And even if you follow a particular deity in Hinduism, these prayers will not in any way conflict with the beliefs in the deity, because they're not in a way a sectarian as such. They're so universal. So I think all Hindus have no problem saying it. And as a matter of fact, I don't think anybody of other faith should have a problem saying it. So yeah, all in all, it's wonderful prayers.
Thank you, Vijay Vaisitaben. So next question is, if we now forgotten the question. There was a question in my mind which I thought be useful. So if someone is just mechanically doing prayers and even maybe chanting mantras that do not understand the meaning behind it, is it beneficial to do such thing, Sitaben?
I think it's obviously very, very beneficial to know the meaning behind it, because if we do it mechanically and without any kind of understanding of what we are doing, then how can we throw out those sort of good vibrations to the rest of the world? It's so incredibly important that we understand what we are doing. And I think, especially in things like in wedding ceremonies, in the 30, 40, 50 years ago, the priest would just rattle off loads and loads of Sanskrit, and everyone else would be busy chatting away and not really listening to anything. But I think times have changed now. People are really interested. They want to know why we are doing certain things. And now the priests take the time to explain it in English so that we all understand the benefit of what we are singing, the mantras that we are chanting. So I think it has much more of an impact if we actually understand what we are saying, rather than just mechanically sort of rattling it off. And in a way, it's almost like, what's the point? Because you don't really understand what you're saying. So we need to all make the effort to try and understand what we are chanting so that it has a greater impact. Vijay?
Yeah, absolutely true. I mean, sometimes I listen to some Buddhist mantras in the car. I don't understand them, but of course it gives good vibes. But I wish I could understand what they're saying. Then I guess the impact would be much greater. So yes, I think chanting on its own sometimes can be very mechanical, but if you get a nice vibe, then of course it's beneficial. But even more beneficial is really understand what the mantras are. Then it's really fantastic. Yeah. So that's all I can add to that, Manish.
Thank you, Vijay Vaisitaben. We take a next question from Varun Tiwari, moving off the topic now and taking viewer question. He's saying, what is the shape of art according to Hinduism? Because some Muslim scholars like Zakir Naik say that art is four-cornered in Hinduism, and they give some sources in Vedas and some of the maybe Puranas. Vijay Bhai?
Okay, first of all, please don't listen to Zakir Naik. He doesn't understand Hinduism in my view. He just talks a lot of nonsense, sorry to say. But look, the Vedic scriptures in many ways are very metaphorical, they're very allegorical. And when we say four corners, it doesn't mean we are living on a square plate, right? Please think about that. I mean, it's been proven by so many great Indian ancient mathematicians like Arya, but the world is a sphere. So even it's like in the Quranic scripture, it talks about earth, with the sun goes in a muddy pool. There's so many things like that. The key thing is that please don't try and use all this allegoric to make a scientific view of it. In Hinduism, we are lucky because we don't have to do that. The scriptures are more like a guide to us to progress spiritually. And one thing to keep in mind as well, in Hinduism, our scriptures are a discovery, whereas in the case of Arya is a revelation of God. So ours is discoveries. People discover different divine truths, but the way they say it, the way they explain it, may be metaphorical, maybe allegorical for the people living in that time. But in modern times, we should not just take it on face value. So it made sense at that time, doesn't mean it makes sense now. So we have to think rationally and think in such a way that we understand why it was said, in what context that particular verse was said. And by the way, in Hinduism, there's so many different views of how the earth is. From the Varaha avatar, when he lifted the whole earth, so till now. So there's so many views. Why does the Islam is going to speak only one view? That's not how Hinduism works. So I'm sorry, we should not listen to him. Think for yourself. Sita.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that's the thing, is sometimes when, there are people out there who, don't mean well for Hinduism, and they pull stuff out of the scriptures without considering the context of what was being said. So when things are taken out of context, it's very easy to twist them and turn them into things which don't actually make any sense. It can make us feel unsure about our own religion. So we have to be incredibly careful and discerning and say, look, this has been pulled completely out of context, and I need to read this verse in the context in which it was written. But yes, as Vijay said, I mean, we don't believe that the earth is a square. Obviously not. There's a whole sort of explanations as to how the earth is, and we understand that it's not a square, it's a sphere like everybody else does. And also it just reminds me very much of, for example, the swastika. We have the four corners. We're saying that we are drawing good luck from the four corners of the world. It doesn't literally mean that there are four corners of the world. We're just saying from all the directions, north, south, east, west, we are pulling in good luck. So with a lot of these things, there's allegories, there's metaphors, and they need to be understood properly within the context in which they were written and said. Oh, Manishpa, you're on mute.
Okay, wonderful answer. Thank you, Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai. So the next question from Varun Tiwari is, can any book be a divine origin? Like Bible, Quran, Vedas, did God write them, he's saying, with his own hand? Can any book be divine origin? Sita Ben?
So, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, God in Hinduism is a principle. So how can God be a person who can actually physically handwrite a scripture? But I think, especially from the perspective of Hinduism, we say that there are incredibly powerful spiritual individuals who've had amazing spiritual experiences, and they write down, or they say, or they express what they have discovered in that spiritual experience, and what they write down or what they say become our scriptures. So we say that it's a discovery of humanity in the way that science is also a discovery of humanity. Like gravity, you can't say, well, gravity wrote down the law of gravity. Is something that humanity has discovered and we've written it down. So in a similar kind of way, I guess, is that these individuals who've had amazing spiritual experiences, it's such a life transforming, such a dynamic, such a powerful experience. They want to express it. And this is how they express it. They use the language, they use the context in which they are operating to express what they are saying. And again, another example of how things can be pulled out of context. I mean, for example, Jesus was an incredibly powerful spiritual individual, and he says only, I don't know the exact words of it, only those who come through me will become whatever enlightened. But we have to also look at the context. He was talking to his congregation, to his group of disciples. He wasn't talking to the whole planet for the whole rest of eternity. So we have to always look at what is said in the context in which it was said, and then it just makes so much more sense. So yes, I think it's important that we understand that these are discoveries of humanity, but then the mindset of the individual, as Dad has said so many times, it's the mindset of the individual colors that expression of that spiritual experience, and we have to understand that as well. JP?
Very true, Sita. I absolutely agree. I think one thing to add is that, look, divinity is not only in words. Divinity is everywhere in the universe. Looking at the beautiful stars, looking at how plants grow, you can see the divine, or at least the force of life, in so many ways in this universe. So I think in Hinduism, we have to be careful that while books are divine, and of course we revere the words, I mean, it's amazing experience, but you too are divine, I am divine, we are all divine. So we have something really special in us. So we should see that all the books are special, so are we, so are all of nature, so is the universe. So divinity has got a much more broader meaning in Hinduism. So we have to keep that in mind too. And that's all I can add to that, Manish.
Thank you, Vijay Sitaben. So many people sometimes, are doing daily rituals, but when they treat other people, they are sometimes can be really harsh. And is it not the idea that if you have a particular deity, you should try to imagine everyone, your deity is in everyone, and treat them as kind of divine being, Sitaben? What is, how does this match with, the spirituality of everyone?
Yeah, no, totally. So, I mean, I think that's a litmus test to see, are you actually making spiritual progress by worshipping God? Because by making spiritual progress, if it is actually working for you, then you'll start to feel a tremendous affinity with everyone and everything around you. Your personality starts to, I guess, show a tremendous warmth, a tremendous loving nature to everyone and everything around you. So it would come as the most natural thing to try and help the people around you, try and support those around you rather than being harsh. Perhaps if you do find that, you're doing your worship ceremony every day and you are still perhaps not as kind and as compassionate as you can be with those around you, perhaps this form of worship is not right for you. Maybe you need to go out there and do something else. Perhaps you need to go and do some community work to sort of further your spiritual progress. So perhaps it's a sign that it's not working, because there's a contradiction there, because you're trying to say, I love God, but hang on, God is here and the people around you as well. So they need to sort of synergize. And I guess that's a way of trying to see what is the right path for you. Vijay?
Yes, I agree with that. I think the only thing to add is that, Manish, we live in a world where there's so many forces pulling us in different directions. There's, also the typical vices we have, anger, greed, which is, by the way, one of the aims of Navaratri. Of course, we see the divine everybody, but immediately we go out in the world. We don't see people as divine anymore. We just as human beings we're competing with. And that's because a lot of practice and training to kind of improve our mindset. As Sita is saying that in a way how we react with other people, or how we behave with other people, how we see other people, in a very good kind of gauge on how much you progress spiritually. But yes, it's a challenge, I think, for all humanity to see how we can see the divine more and more often in everybody. That's all I can add, yeah.
Thank you, Vijay Sitaben. Next question is about what we should be asking God for. So many times, we pray for something and suddenly, it happens. Your prayers are answered and whatever you wanted, you get it. And many times it doesn't happen. And that is a problem as well. But should we be asking for material things and stuff, or what should we be praying God for, Sitaben?
Yes, I mean, it just reminds me very much of what Krishna says, all the different kinds of devotees that come to him. There are people who who are curious about God, and they're only worshipping God just because they want to satisfy their curiosity. There are people out there who say, I want to pray for this, I want to pray for money, I want to pray for, I don't know, a success or whatever it is. And that is okay, because if you can't go to God for what you want, then what kind of a God is that? So there's absolutely nothing wrong with having people who pray to God for reasons other than God. That's okay. But Krishna does say that, you know, the supreme devotee, the highest sort of gauge of devotee, is one who worships God for the sake of wanting God alone and not wanting anything from God. That's the sort of highest grade, because if you have that kind of an attitude, you're going to make a tremendous amount of spiritual progress. You're not here worshipping and praying every day so you can have a business contract with God. You're praying to God for God alone. And it reminds me of in the story of the Mahabharata, obviously the band of brothers, they're royalty, but they're treated so badly, and they're spending a long time wandering around in poverty in forests and mountains. And Yudhishthira was walking, and they were going towards the Himalayas, and Draupadi said, "Oh, what about this God? Look at us, you know, we are good people, and why are we suffering like this? Why do you love God?" And then Yudhishthira says, "Look at these Himalayas, they are glorious, they are beautiful, they are majestic, and I love them because that's what they are. So I don't love God because he can take away my suffering. I love God for the sake of God alone, because that's the majestic nature of God. That's what I love. I'm not doing it because I want him to do something for me. I love God for the sake of God." So I think it's a lot that we can learn. And obviously, I think as an individual progresses on their spiritual journey, they may well start off by saying, I want this from God, I want that from God. But then as they further their journey, they start to realize, you know what, I don't want those things from God. I only want God. And that's how we progress on our spiritual journey. Shiva?
So I think you're right. I think ultimate, of course, bhakti is idea para bhakti with nothing in return. But of course, I mean, if you're not struggling financially, there's no harm in asking for, wealth. I think the problem comes when you have already got too much wealth, but then you want even more. And then just when you get kind of greedy. But I mean, as Krishna says, whoever comes to me in whatsoever way, I accept thee. So pray, at least if you're not good, if you don't have money, at least pray. So at least there's no harm in that, pray anyway. It reminds me of a story when I was young, I was told a story about this man who would ask God for 100 rupees. Please give me 100 rupees. I won't take one less. I won't take one more. Please give me 100 rupees. So God decided to test him. He said, okay, let me really test him if it's really true. So God gave him 99 rupees only. And he goes, I got some money. So while he was counting his 99 rupees, he goes, oops, what do I do? Then he became clever. He goes, oh Lord, you're such a great person. You really understand. When I say 100 rupees, you really meant 100 rupees. You even took 1 rupee of the handkerchief that you tied the money in. So it is actually worth 100 rupees anyway. So if you're going to be that greedy, then of course, I think the key thing is not to be greedy. If you need to ask for material well-being, that's okay, because many poor people do that. But ultimately, the true bhakti is bhakti, which is selfless bhakti. That is, I think, what we should aim for.
It's wonderful to hear that, Sitaben Vijay. We're coming close to the hour. Any final thoughts on this topic, Vijay?
All I can add is that, the way a person relates to God is based on his age, aptitude, traditions. So he can pray in whatever way makes him progress spiritually. I mean, for some, sitting in the temple and doing bhakti, it just doesn't work. For them, it may be selfless action. Maybe meditation. There's so many ways to make spiritual progress, and so the way you pray or not pray is purely based on the individual. Sita?
Yeah, I mean, nothing much more to add to that. I think that's exactly what it's all about. You have to choose the way that suits you the most, and it could involve elaborate worship. It could be just saying the name of God. It could be doing something else entirely. So you have to find the right path for you, and we have to make sure, I guess, we don't underestimate our own sort of inner compass in a way. We don't have to follow what everyone else is doing. If what you want to do is something different, then you should follow your heart and do that.
That's a wonderful way summarized. Since today's program is about praying, we'll finish with Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina today. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha. Sarve Santu Niramaya. Sarve Bhadrani Pasyantu. Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Santi Santi Santi. Om, may all be happy. May all be free from disease. May all realize what is good. May no one be subject to misery. Om, peace be upon all. Thank you everyone for joining, and hope to bring you another wonderful topic next week. Hope you have a wonderful week, divine week, spiritual week, and be good, and see you next week. Bye from everyone in the team. I'll just put it on a gallery view so everyone can be safe. Bye everyone, and we'll end the stream.